Hello to all our amazing followers. Welcome to the channel where we unveil the incredible stories of history and unknown legends. Today, we're taking a journey to Japan, a land full of bravery, culture, and fascinating mysteries. We'll tell you about the legendary samurai and their honorable codes, and share the story of the immortal sword named Honjo Masamune. Are you ready? Let's begin. Japan, the land of some imagine 13th century Japan, a time when every corner of the country was shaped by the code of Bushido, or the way of the samurai. This code was the soul of the samurai, guiding their honor, loyalty, and discipline. Samurai were more than warriors. They were living symbols of integrity and devotion, dedicating their lives entirely to the service of their lords. But above all else, the most treasured possession of a samurai was their sword, the katana. To the samurai, their sword was not merely a weapon, but an extension of their spirit, a symbol of their identity and honor. It was believed that a samurai's sword possessed mystical powers, and losing it was considered equivalent to losing their very soul. During this turbulent era, filled with ceaseless battles between samurai clans vying for power, the Sagami province became a focal point. This was not just the birthplace of Japan's greatest swordsmith, but the stage for the creation of an immortal legend. Forging a masterpiece, the Honjo Masamune in the heart of Sagami, nestled within a humble village brimming with artistry and tradition, lived a man whose name would echo throughout history, Masamune Goro-Nyudo. Masamune was more than just a swordsmith. He was revered as a god of his craft. His skill was so extraordinary that people believed his swords were imbued with divine power. One of the most famous tales surrounding Masamune is his legendary rivalry with another swordsmith, Muramasa. According to legend, Masamune's swords were so pure and sacred that they would only cut what was necessary, like floating leaves, while Muramasa's blades were bloodthirsty, slicing indiscriminately through anything, even living creatures. But among all the masterpieces Masamune ever forged, one stood above the rest. The Honjo Masamune that in the year 1288, Masamune set out to create the greatest sword of his life. This was no ordinary sword. It was destined to be a timeless artifact, a masterpiece that would define his legacy. For this monumental task, he chose rare and sacred metals from hallowed mines. These metals were known for their unmatched strength and their ability to reflect light in an almost otherworldly way. The process of forging the Honjo Masamune was arduous and spiritual. Masamune spent months in his workshop, which was surrounded by the serene beauty of Sagami's landscapes. Each day, before beginning his work, he would meditate and pray. He believed that a sword was not just a physical object, but a living entity that had to be awakened through art and spirituality. The techniques Masamune employed to create this sword were so advanced that even today, modern swordsmiths cannot replicate them. The blade of the Honjo Masamune was so flawlessly smooth that it seemed to reflect not only light, but the very soul of its wielder. What made this sword truly unique, however, was the mysterious energy attributed to it. People of the time believed that Masamune was not just a craftsman, but a kind of sorcerer. They said he infused the blade with the spirits of warriors from the past through prayers and secret rituals. When the sword was finally complete, Masamune gazed upon his creation in silence and is said to have whispered, "This is not just a sword. This is destiny itself. Only those worthy of it will endure." The legend goes that the Honjo Masamune was unveiled for the first time during a grand ceremony. As sunlight struck the blade, witnesses described a celestial glow radiating throughout the hall, as if the sword itself was alive. Even the most seasoned samurai and martial arts masters were left speechless. One witness later wrote in his memoirs, "I felt as though the sword was watching me, judging me. My heart raced, and though I couldn't explain why, I was filled with an inexplicable fear." Soon, the Honjo Masamune found its way to the battlefield, where it began to alter the fates of those who wielded it. Some rose to unparalleled glory, while others met tragic and unexpected ends. The sword became more than a weapon. It was a living legend, a force that intertwined with the destinies of those who dared to wield it. Did Masamune foresee that his masterpiece would become a symbol of both power and peril? Or did he intend to create something far greater than a sword? An artifact that could hold the fate of its wielder in its razor-sharp edge? The sword's first battle now. Let's travel to the year 1561, to the battlefield of Kawanakajima in Ekizen province. The ground soaked in blood, the sky veiled in dark smoke, and armies clad in shining armor, their colorful banners waving in the air, fought desperately for power and survival. It was a scene of chaos and brutality. Amidst this bloody turmoil, a brave general named Honjo Shinzaga entered the fray. Fighting desperately for the honor of his family, he lost his regular sword during one of the skirmishes. At that moment, his eyes caught the gleam of light reflecting off a sword lying among the bodies on the ground. The sunlight danced on the blade, making it appear to shine. With trembling hands, Honjo pulled the sword from the pile of corpses. The moment his fingers grasped the hilt, a strange sensation overwhelmed him. He later recalled, "It was a feeling I had never experienced before. It was as if the sword was speaking to me. I could feel an invisible force pushing me forward. It was as though the power of all the warriors who had wielded it before now surged through my hands." With this extraordinary sensation, Honjo charged into the heart of the enemy ranks. It is said that, almost miraculously, he cut through the enemy's formation, defeating one foe after another. His comrades were stunned by the sight. They believed that the sword had granted him powers beyond those of any ordinary man. But the story doesn't end there. Feeling invincible, Honjo entered his next battle with the same sword. But this time, everything changed. In the heat of the battle, the sword suddenly slipped from his grasp and fell to the ground. Hesitating to retrieve it, he was struck from behind and killed in that very moment. This event only fueled the rumors about the sword. People began to say that the Honjo Masamune sword was not meant for just anyone, and only those deemed worthy could survive with it. Did the sword change its owner's destiny? Honjo Masamune, a legendary masterpiece that intertwined the spirits of warriors with the fate of history, was passed down through generations for centuries, remaining a symbol of power and respect. But did this sword, which was said to determine the destiny of its owner, also have its own fate changed? The story of Honjo Masamune began in the castles of samurai families and extended to the bloody battlefields. Yet what few could have anticipated was that this legend would stretch all the way to the Second World War, eventually becoming one of the greatest mysteries in history. The end of an era and the beginning of a mystery in the modern era, and particularly during World War II. The Honjo Masamune sword was still in the possession of the Tokugawa family, a symbol of power, honor, and Japan's heritage. However, in 1945, Japan was defeated by the Allies. The terms of Japan's surrender were harsh, and one of the orders issued by the American military was the surrender of all Japanese war and ancient swords. For the Japanese, this surrender meant the loss of a part of their soul and national identity. Many of these swords were confiscated as war trophies and sent to the United States. Some were destroyed, and others mysteriously disappeared. One of these lost swords was Honjo Masamune. The last sign of Honjo Masamune, the last official report of this sword, comes from Takoji Iwamoto, a member of the Tokugawa family. He was forced to hand over this unique masterpiece to an American officer in late 1945. However, after this handover, no one has ever found a trace of Honjo Masamune. Numerous rumors and theories emerged about the sword's fate. Some say it ended up in the hands of an American soldier who was unaware of its historical value, perhaps taking it as a war souvenir. Others speculate that the sword might have been sold in a black market for historical artifacts and is now kept in a private collection. But what is the truth? The truth remains shrouded in mystery, and Honjo Masamune has now become an enigma, one that historians, swordsmiths, and history enthusiasts continue to try to solve. The secret remains as the story of Honjo Masamune comes to an end. Many questions remain unanswered. Does this sword truly possess a power that can change its wielder's fate? Is the one who currently holds this legendary blade worthy of its power? Perhaps one day this great secret will be revealed. Perhaps one day someone will find it again and remember that within the blade lies history and destiny. But are we, in this story, only witnessing a part of the truth? Could it be that something still lies within the sword, waiting to be discovered? What awaits us if Honjo Masamune ever reappears? What do you think? Does the sword still hold a magical power? Or is it merely an ancient object that breathes life into our stories? Thank you so much for joining us on this legendary journey. But this is just the beginning. If these stories have captivated you and you want to explore more tales from different nations and cultures, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon so you never miss our new posts. And now, it's your turn. If you have a story or legend from your own culture, we'd love to hear it and proudly share it on our channel in your name. Until then, don't forget, this is a place where new and exciting stories are always waiting to be told. Stay with us, because the next story will leave you amazed.